এই মুহূর্তে আপনাদের মাঝে আপডেট খবর নিয়ে উপস্থিত হলাম। সবাই খবরটা দেখেন।
More breaking news this time about the January 6th rioters. The Supreme Court has just ruled. Let's get to Shannon Bream. What did they say?
So what they have said is that one of the statutes the Justice Department used to charge hundreds of different January 6 defendants is no good. And that includes President Donald Trump, because he has actually had two of these counts against him in the Jack Smith D.C. case against him, that federal criminal case that has been on hold here. So what essentially they say is this statute, which was passed in the wake of Enron, they say it doesn't fit here. He says, given that the subsection was enacted to address the Enron disaster, not some other far-flung set of dangers like what happened just right over here at the Capitol, it is unlikely that Congress responded with such an unfocused and grossly incommensurate patch in English that essentially means that all of these people who were charged under this particular obstruction statute for January 6th, that is no good. The dissent, this is a very interesting vote makeup, because the dissent is actually written by Justice Barrett, and she is joined by Justices Sotomayor and Kagan. She says that Congress did intend for this kind of conduct to be brought under this particular obstruction charge. She thinks the majority got it wrong. But what it means is a big headache for the DOJ and good news for hundreds of January 6 defendants charged under this statute, again, including President Trump.
It's a big ruling, too.
Yeah.
I mean, these are big cases. Let's bring back Andy McCarthy, Jonathan Turley. Andy, this is, what does it mean? Big picture for these January 6th
And how many people
defendants.
And how many people was this statute? Did it apply to all these cases?
Well, it applied to all of them, or many of them, Dana, in the sense that it was charged in them. It doesn't mean that everybody who pled guilty, for example, which happened massively in that connection, doesn't mean that all those people have preserved their right to complain about that on appeal. So how many of them it will actually benefit is questionable. But the importance here is that they have found that this is an evidence impairment statute. So in other words, for this kind of obstruction to apply, you actually have to corrupt the documentary evidence that's being presented in a proceeding. The way the Justice Department tried to apply it was that if you engage in conduct that prevents the proceeding from happening in the first place, that it was applicable. The court seems to me emphatically to be saying that that's not the case, at least the majority decision. And I think the importance with respect to President Trump is, number one, does Jack Smith have to supersede his indictment? Because the most important two counts of that indictment are this obstruction statute. I think what he would come back and say is that his obstruction theory in the case includes what they call the fake electors scheme, where they actually provided certificates to the Congress for purposes of, according to the prosecutors, undermining the proceeding at which President Biden's